These picanha steaks are on the menu today. Juicy, flavorful, unbelievably fragrant, and 100% kosher. Ah, the picanha cut. If you've seen Guga Foods, you've for sure heard about it by now. A beautiful cut of beef that has been popularized in Brazil and that comes right from the hindquarters of the cow. Now, if you're kosher or know a little bit about kosher meat, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, the hindquarters of the cow? Isn't that a big no-no? Short answer, yes and no. The entire hindquarters of the cow is not off limits. It's special veins and nerves that are found primarily in the hindquarters that are not allowed. So there's actually a process of deveining that is quite complicated. It's called Nikur. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of supervision, a lot of complicated training to perfect, but it can be done. Don't worry, I'm not going to be going into any more details about the subject right now, but stick around until the end of the video because I'm going to be sharing some pro tips on how to elevate your game to the next level and some techniques and why we use those techniques and the benefits of them. Also, I'm going to go into the process of the hindquarters of the beef, what makes it kosher, what doesn't, what does it mean, this Nikur process. Also going to be touching on what picanha is, where it comes from the animal, and how does it compare to something more common like ribeye. So stick around until the end for all that great info. Now, right before we get into the method and how to cook it, I got to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, Bakar Meats. Bakar Meats is a US-based kosher butcher that specializes in the hindquarters of the cow. So offering incredible cuts like kosher picanha, kosher New York strip, filet mignon, yep, I said it, kosher filet mignon. And the great thing, they're certified Glatt Kosher Beit Yosef. So a pretty high standard. Check them out. I'm gonna leave their link in the description section. All right, without further ado, let's jump into it. All right, to get started, first thing we gotta do is remove the meat from the bag and pat it dry. We don't want any excess moisture for the beginning parts. Now this part is optional. I like to pre-slice my fillets. So go ahead, give them a slice per portion size. Now, if you've seen some of our other videos in regards to how to make steaks, the steps are going to be pretty much similar. The first step is to dry brine it. That basically means salting it and leaving it in the fridge uncovered for at least 1 hour. I like to go all the way to 24 hours. And I'll explain later on what's the benefit of doing a dry brine with your steaks. So we salted it well, we got it in the fridge uncovered and waited 24 hours. Now this is how it looks. Look how incredible that came out. The salt penetrated quite deep. The red is really pronounced of the meat. It looks incredible and the taste is going to be way more pronounced and much beefier. All right, out of the fridge it goes. And now the basic spices. When you're dealing with steak, you want to keep it simple. A little bit of freshly ground black pepper and some garlic powder. Keep it simple. Now a nice little optional tip. Let it warm up or come up to room temperature for about 30 minutes to max an hour. Now I know a lot of people say you gotta bring it up for 2 hours to room temp or fry it directly from the fridge. So I saw a video on Guga Foods where he tested steaks that freshly came out of the fridge and steaks that have been sitting out to room temp. And he found that there was no taste difference. So I like to go a little bit in between. I don't like cooking it from a cold state, but I also don't like to leave it out for 2 hours like a lot of chefs recommend. Also, health guidelines in regards to leaving meats or foods in general outside at room temperature could cause it to go into the danger zone, collecting bacteria. I like to stay away from that, and that usually happens at around 2 hours. So I say 30 minutes to 1 hour to warm up just a bit, should be just fine. Now we spiced it, it's time to get cooking. And a perfect cook means a perfect temperature. I use that using my meter probe, which I absolutely love, and I honestly recommend everyone try it out. The wireless functionality of a meter probe is quite awesome. That's why I love to use it, whether I'm using it on steaks, on chicken, on fish. So check it out. Again, description down below. Now setting up the cook in the meter app, quite simple. We click set up cook, then beef. They even have picanha on the list. Set it to medium rare, and you can adjust the temperatures a bit. And start cook. Get a pan, set your stove to high heat, and let it start heating up. And while that's working, preheat your oven to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna be using both for the best technique. Add in a bit of oil, and once it starts to smoke, add your meat right in. You should hear that beautiful sizzling sound the second the meat touches the pan. That's how you know you're doing it right. Now you want a nice little golden crust per side, which should take about a minute and a half, not longer. Keep flipping it until you have a beautiful, nice crust on the entire steak, especially on that fat cap. Once you've seared all sides, get it in the oven, ideally with the pan, and let it do its thing. Now, just monitor it on the meter app. The meter probe is going to keep tabs on the internal and ambient temperature and help estimate how much longer until you reach that desired cook. So it's going to make it simple for you, tell you when to take it out. We like to have mashed potatoes with our steaks, and mashed potatoes is the easiest thing to make. Quite simple. Step 1. Boil the potatoes with the skin for 30 to 35 minutes. You can tell when they're ready by taking a fork and sticking it right into the center. If you feel any resistance, leave it a bit longer. Once you feel that it slides right through like butter, it's ready to come out. Rinse a little bit with cold water so you can manipulate it a bit and take that skin right off. It should peel off with no resistance. Get the potatoes in a bowl and add in 1 egg for every 5 potatoes that you've made. Add some salt, pepper, a good amount of olive oil or margarine. Here you can add whatever you want. You can add chives, some fresh garlic, garlic powder, some chili powder. But the trick is to mix it right away and start crushing it. You want that egg to mix really well with the potatoes and not to cook in one spot. While the potatoes are hot, it's going to cook that egg. So you want to really crush it up and mix it well. Give it a taste, and if it's missing anything, adjust. All right, now the meter app has dinged, told us it's time to take out the steaks. Those look so good. The entire house smells incredible. We're all starving at this point. We can't wait to dig in. And you gotta let it rest. So just follow the app, it's gonna tell you for how long. As soon as it tells you it's done, you can dig in. Now I'll explain a little bit about the resting at the end of the video. Are you liking this video so far? If yes, give this video a thumbs up, leave us some feedback in the comment section, and subscribe to the channel. All right, now that resting time is done, get it on a plate and pour those juices from the pan over the steaks. That's why I like to get it in the oven with the pan, because any juices, any oils that come out, they stay confined and we can always use them and pour them on later. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's slice these bad boys up. And let's not forget to take out the probe so we don't destroy it. Seems to be a bit stuck, so gotta jiggle it a bit. Oh, there you go. Look at that slice and... all right, corner to corner, medium rare. And now we've waited enough, let's get tasting. All right guys, so made the picanha. Very excited to try this. Never had picanha in my life. The meat is tender, it has a chew to it. Incredible flavor, meaty flavor. The salt penetrated nice and deep. That's what the dry brine does. That's what I love about dry brining it. You taste the salt, you taste the pepper, you taste the garlic powder, very slightly. And what's great about marinating it with only those 3 is you really let the meat shine. And this is unbelievable. All right guys, that's it for the cook. And now let's go into some pro tips. So the first thing we discussed was the salting and the dry brining for 1 to 24 hours. So countless people have done experiments where you're testing a non-salted steak, a 1-hour salted steak, 12-hour salted steak, and 24 hours. Now what's the difference? If you just salt your steaks and put them in the frying pan, the salt doesn't have time to penetrate deep into the meat, so that uniformity of flavor won't be there. So the normal recommendation is, depending on how thick your steaks are, is to salt it at least 1 hour before you start to fry it or cook it. I like to go up to 24 hours so that the salt has enough time to penetrate really deep and give a uniform flavor throughout the steak. And if you're cooking something really big, that 24 hours becomes critical. You gotta let the center of the meat have the full flavor, just like the edges. So what dry brining does is, as soon as the salt hits the meat, it starts to extract the moisture. Now it may look like those juices are gonna start falling off or dripping off the pan. Don't worry, after just a short amount of time, the steak will actually start to reabsorb those liquids. The next tip is pat drying your meat before frying. And this is not exclusive to steaks. This applies to any meat, anything that you're frying. As soon as there's liquid or moisture that's on the surface, that's gonna create a steaming or boiling effect instead of that incredible frying crust creating effect. Next tip, using the same pan that you fried on the stove with in the oven. Like I mentioned, the juices, the flavor, the oil that is extracted when frying, you don't want to lose that. So by getting it into the oven, any juices that come out, all those extra oils that have been frying with it, will stay there and you can pour them right onto your steak. The final pro tip is the low temperature. You may have noticed that I said set the oven to 250 degrees. You could have easily set it to 300 or 350 and cooked it in way less time. But what happens when you put it at a lower temperature? It comes slowly up the temp. That means that the outside of the steaks and the center are all cooking at more or less the same rate. The end result is a perfect uniformity throughout the steak, or throughout whatever meat you're cooking. Think of it like this. If it's hotter around, by the time that heat reaches the center, the outer layers have already been hot for quite some time. That's one of the risks of cooking a steak on the grill at high temps, is that the uniformity disappears. You'll end up with a well done outer layer and a medium rare on the inside. In a nutshell, it's about uniformity, cooking it slowly so everything cooks at the same time. Alrighty guys, that's the pro tips for the videos. Let us know what you thought about them in the comment section. And if you liked them so far, give us a thumbs up. Now let's discuss the hindquarters of the meat that I touched on a bit, this process of Nikur, what makes it kosher, and how to make it kosher. In Judaism, the rules and regulations regarding what we're allowed to eat, what we're not allowed to eat, what's off limits and why, are all found in the Torah, in the Bible. These laws are called the laws of kashrut, and when something complies with these rules, it's called kosher. Now the hindquarters, it's a bit of a tricky one, but I'm going to do my best to explain. So the laws regarding the hindquarters of an animal stem from a story in the Bible, where Isaac fought off an angel, where towards the end of their battle, Isaac was hit by the angel in the hip area, kind of the sciatic nerve. Now because of this, Jews are not allowed to eat this nerve and special veins that connect with it, whether it's on cattle, so cows, sheep, or even goats. So usually what will happen after slaughtering a kosher animal, the hindquarters will be separated and sold off as not kosher. The process to remove this nerve is quite intricate, very costly, and time consuming. Also, it takes a lot of expertise and quite a bit of supervision. So it's just not worth it. Hindquarters are removed, sold as not kosher. And that's why it's extremely rare to find cuts that are found in the hindquarters, like a T-bone, like a filet mignon, the New York strip, picanha cut. More popular in Israel is the process of Nikur. Nikur is the process of deveining, where experts are able to actually devein to take out the forbidden nerves and veins. So that way we're able to salvage pretty much the entire hindquarters and these prized cuts of meat, like I mentioned, picanha, New York strip, filet mignon. And because it's such a complicated process, not many people like to do it or know how to do it. But now in the US, it's starting to trickle in. So there's not so many people that have been trained on how to do the Nikur process properly, but that's exactly what Bakar Meats does. They offer Glatt Kosher Beit Yosef, filet mignon, and cuts of meat that come from the hindquarters. They do the Nikur process for us. Now quickly touching on picanha. Picanha is a beautiful cut of meat that was, like I mentioned, popularized in Brazil first, that comes from the top of the rump of the cow. In North America, it's more commonly known as the top sirloin cap, a rump cover, a rump cap, or a culotte. Normally butchers will slice it into different parts for different cuts. So a question I got was, how does picanha compare to ribeye? Picanha has less marbling, but is way more tender. And a ribeye has way more intramuscular fats, which means that it will come out tastier and richer in flavor. After all, fat equals flavor. All right guys, that's it for this video. If you like this content and you like the information that we shared, give this video a thumbs up. Leave us some feedback in the comment section. Let us know what you think. And if you like the content and you want to see more like it, subscribe to the channel and ring that bell. There's plenty more videos with great information coming out that you don't want to miss out on. When you subscribe to this channel, you're going to be getting classic recipes, authentic cooking methods, and everything that is 100% kosher. All right, see you in the next one.